The massive Velderi research vessel drifted silently through the void, its once gleaming hull now scared with damage. Inside, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms rushed between flickering control panels as warning alarms blared. Their ship was dying. Life support failing in sectors 3 through 7, reported a junior engineer, his large eyes blinking rapidly with stress. Engine core temperature rising beyond safe limits. Chief Science Officer Zixel gripped the command console with her upper arms while typing emergency codes with her lower ones. Their mission to study the nearby neutron star had gone terribly wrong when a sudden radiation burst damaged their main systems. "We have no choice," she said finally, looking at the ship's captain. "We must send a distress signal." Captain Norrell hesitated. "To send an omnidirectional signal would alert everyone in this sector to our presence. We know nothing of who might respond." "If we do not, we will be dead within 30 hours, Zixel countered. "The probability of rescue by our own fleet is 0. They are too far." After a long moment, the captain nodded. "Send it." Zixel pressed the sequence that would broadcast their coordinates and status across all known communication frequencies. The signal shot outward at light speed, crossing the vast emptiness between stars. 3 weeks later on Earth, Dr. Alan Cassidy stared at his computer screen in NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Facility. He had been tracking unusual patterns when something remarkable appeared in the data. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the analysis again. When the same result appeared, he reached for his phone. 4 hours later, Dr. Cassidy stood in a secure conference room at the Pentagon. His hand shook slightly as he faced the assembled military officers and government officials. "The signal repeats every 108 seconds, he explained, pointing to the display. "It contains mathematical sequences that could not occur naturally, followed by what appears to be coordinates and technical data. This is not random noise. This is a message." Major Samantha Powell leaned forward. "And you're certain it's not from one of our deep space probes? Or the Chinese?" "Absolutely certain," Dr. Cassidy replied. "The signal originated approximately 40 light-years from Earth. No human technology has ever gone that far." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "It's a distress call," said General Frank Morris, breaking the silence. "Someone out there needs help." The President's National Security Advisor nodded slowly. "The question is, do we answer?" 2 days later, Captain Eric Daniels watched Earth shrink in the view screen as the U.S. Pathfinder accelerated out of orbit. At 42, with gray beginning to show at his temples, Daniels had been selected to command humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. "Status report," he requested, turning to his bridge crew. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied Lieutenant Kelly Rodriguez from the helm. "Warp drive ready for activation once we clear the lunar orbit." Daniels nodded. The Pathfinder represented the pinnacle of human technology, a ship that had been built in secret over the past decade, equipped with experimental faster-than-light technology that had never been used beyond test flights in the solar system. Dr. Olivia Martinez, the mission's xenobiologist, joined him at the viewport. "Do you think they'll look like us?" she asked quietly. "I doubt it," Daniels replied, "but I hope they're friendly. And if they're not?" Daniels glanced toward the weapons station, where Security Chief Ben Carter was running final checks on systems that had been designed with humanity's protection in mind. "Then we'll handle that too," he said. "Humanity has always prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." As the Pathfinder reached the designated coordinates, Captain Daniels gave the order that would make history: engage warp drive. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship leaped forward, carrying the first humans to answer an alien call for help. None of them knew what awaited them, but all understood the importance of their mission. Humanity was about to announce its presence to the galaxy. What they didn't yet realize was how that announcement would change everything. The U.S. Pathfinder emerged from warp speed with a flash of light. The bridge crew blinked as normal space returned around them. Captain Eric Daniels stood from his command chair, looking at the main view screen. "Position confirmed, Captain," said Lieutenant Rodriguez. "We've arrived at the coordinates from the distress signal." Floating before them was an enormous ship, at least 3 times the size of the Pathfinder. Its hull was made of a strange blue-silver metal that seemed to shimmer. Deep gashes ran along its side, and parts of it were dark where power had failed. "Life signs?" Daniels asked. Science Officer Greg Peterson studied his display, detecting approximately 300 biological signatures, but they're different from anything in our database. "And one more thing, Captain," Peterson added, his voice dropping. "There's something else out there. Some kind of energy pattern in that nearby nebula. I can't identify it." Dr. Olivia Martinez stood next to Captain Daniels, her eyes wide. "We're really doing this. First contact." "Open a channel," ordered Daniels. "All frequencies, universal translator ready." Communications Officer Lisa Wright nodded. "Channel open, sir." Daniels took a deep breath. "This is Captain Eric Daniels of the Earth vessel U.S. Pathfinder. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance." For several long seconds, there was silence. Then the view screen flickered, and the bridge crew gasped. A blue-skinned being appeared on screen. It had 4 arms, large purple eyes, and a mouth that seemed too wide for its narrow face. When it spoke, its voice had a musical quality. "Earth vessel? We did not expect anyone to come, especially not so quickly." The alien's eyes blinked rapidly. "I am Chief Science Officer Zixel of the Velderi research vessel Harmony Seeker. How far away is your homeworld?" Martins whispered to Peterson. "Based on their signal's origin, at least 40 light years," he replied quietly. Zixel seemed to hear them. "Your faster-than-light technology must be remarkably efficient. Our signal was only sent 23 days ago." The bridge crew exchanged looks. Humanity's experimental warp drive was more advanced than they had realized. "We're here to help," Daniels said. "With your permission, I'd like to send over our chief engineer and a team to assess the damage to your vessel." Zixel conferred with someone off-screen, then nodded. "We accept your offer, Captain Daniels. Our situation is becoming desperate." Lieutenant Commander Jason Grant led the engineering team to the shuttle bay. As they crossed to the alien vessel, Security Chief Ben Carter kept his hand near his sidearm. "Easy, Chief," Grant said. "We're here as friends." "Always prepare for all possibilities," Carter replied. The shuttle docked with the Velderi ship through an airlock adapter. When the door opened, the team found themselves facing 6 Velderi. The aliens were taller than humans, with slender builds and skin that ranged from pale blue to deep indigo. One stepped forward. "I am Krell, engineering specialist. Welcome aboard the Harmony Seeker." Grant stepped forward and extended his hand, then realized the gesture might not translate. To his surprise, Krell reached out with his lower right arm and grasped Grant's hand. "We have studied many species," Krell explained, "though yours is new to us." As they moved through the ship, the humans saw the extent of the damage. Life support was failing in multiple sections. The engine room was in even worse condition. "What happened?" Grant asked, examining a melted control panel. Krell hesitated before answering. "We were studying the nebula when we were attacked. The damage caused a radiation surge that disabled our main systems." "Attacked?" Carter asked sharply. "By what?" Krell looked at the other Velderi, who seemed suddenly nervous. "By those we call the Harvesters," Krell said quietly. "And if they realize you have come to help us, they will return." Back on the Pathfinder, Captain Daniels received Grant's report with growing concern. "So they weren't just damaged by a natural phenomenon," he said to Dr. Martinez. "They're running from something." Martinez nodded slowly. "And now, so are we." Captain Daniels stood in the Pathfinder's conference room with his senior officers. On the view screen, a hologram of the damaged Velderi ship rotated slowly. "Lieutenant Commander Grant, what's your assessment?" Daniels asked. Grant pointed to several red sections on the hologram. Their main power system is unlike anything we've seen before, but we understand the basics. We can help them make repairs, but it will take at least 3 days. The Veldari are holding something back, said Security Chief Carter. They flinch every time someone mentions the nebula or these harvesters. Dr. Martinez nodded. I noticed similar behavior patterns. They show signs of trauma when discussing their attackers. Captain, called Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice over the comm system. Sensors are detecting movement in the nebula. The meeting broke up immediately as the officers rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, the colorful gases of the nebula swirled unnaturally. What are we looking at? Daniels asked, leaning forward in his chair. Science Officer Peterson worked frantically at his station. Energy signatures emerging from the cloud formation. 3. No, 4 large objects. The screen shifted to show dark shapes moving through the nebula. As they watched, the shapes resolved into ships. Massive vessels with jagged edges that reminded Daniels of predatory insects. Open a channel to the Veldari, Daniels ordered. Zixel's face appeared, her purple eyes wide with fear. They found us. The harvesters have returned. What do they want? Daniels asked. Everything, Zixel replied. They harvest resources from planets, technologies from ships, and genetic material from species they encounter. They do not communicate. They only take. The harvester ships continued their approach, now fully visible. They were enormous, easily 5 times the size of the Pathfinder. They're scanning us, Peterson reported. Our shields are holding, but wait. They're launching smaller craft. Dozens of smaller ships poured from the largest harvester vessel, heading toward both the Pathfinder and the disabled Veldari ship. Red alert, Daniels ordered. Battle stations. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their positions. Weapons Officer Nina Flores activated the defense systems. Sir, should we attempt communication? Asked Communications Officer Wright. Yes, try all frequencies, Daniels replied, but his hand moved to the weapons control on his chair's armrest. No response to our hails, Wright reported after several attempts. The harvester fighters continued their approach, now clearly on an attack vector. They're targeting both our ships, Peterson called out. Energy weapons charging. Defensive positions, ordered Daniels. Floors, target the lead fighter group, but hold fire until my command. The bridge crew watched tensely as the alien fighters closed in. When the first energy blast from a harvester fighter streaked toward them, Daniels didn't hesitate. Fire. The Pathfinder's weapons blazed to life, cutting through space with precise beams of energy. 2 harvester fighters exploded immediately, while others veered away in apparent surprise. They didn't expect us to fight back, Carter observed from his tactical station. More fighters regrouped and attacked from multiple angles. The Pathfinder shook as several blasts hit their shields. Shields at 86%, reported an officer. Daniels opened a channel to the engine room. Grant, I need more power to the weapons systems. Working on it, Captain, Grant's voice replied over the noise of the engine room. On the screen, the main harvester ships had stopped their advance, seeming to observe the battle. They're analyzing our capabilities, Martinez said. Testing us. A particularly hard hit rocked the ship, throwing several crew members from their seats. Shields at 70%, called out the systems officer. Evasive maneuvers, Daniels ordered. Pattern Delta. And target their formation center with full phaser spread. As the Pathfinder executed a tight turn that the bulkier harvester fighters couldn't match, Flores fired a wide burst that caught 5 enemy ships, destroying 3 and damaging 2 others. The remaining fighters pulled back slightly, regrouping. They're communicating with the motherships, Peterson said, studying his readings. Carter looked at Daniels. Now they know we're not easy prey. What do you think they'll do next? Daniels watched the screen grimly as the large harvester ships began to move forward again. I think we're about to find out. The 3 massive harvester ships moved into an attack formation. On the Pathfinder's bridge, The crew watched with growing concern as the enemy vessels positioned themselves to surround both the human ship and the damaged Veldari vessel. "They're changing their approach," Security Chief Carter noted. "They expected us to run, not fight." Captain Daniels nodded. "Let's use that. Rodriguez, keep us between the harvesters and the Veldari ship. Flores, focus our shield power toward the lead vessel." As the Pathfinder maneuvered, Dr. Martinez entered the bridge with one of the Veldari. The alien's blue skin seemed paler than before, almost gray with fear. "Captain, this is Taylor, the Veldari's historian," Martinez said. "She has important information about the harvesters." Tella stepped forward, her four hands clasped together nervously. "Your resistance has confused them. In this sector of space, the harvesters have operated unchallenged for centuries. Most species submit rather than fight." "Well, humans aren't known for submission," Daniels replied. "What else can you tell us about them? Any weaknesses?" "They function as a collective," Tila explained. "The large ships contain the leaders. The smaller ships are controlled through a network." Communications Officer Wright looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. It's General Morris." The general's face appeared on screen, his expression stern. "Captain Daniels, we've been monitoring your situation through the quantum link. The President has authorized Operation Safeguard." Daniels straightened in his chair. "Sir, Operation Safeguard was only theoretical." "Not anymore," Morris replied. "The U.S. Sentinel, U.S. Valiant, and U.S. Defender are being prepared for immediate departure, but they won't arrive for at least 2 weeks. You need to hold your position until then." After the transmission ended, the bridge fell silent. Technical Officer Paul Rivera, who had been working with the Veldari scientists, broke the tension. "Captain, I've made a discovery," Rivera said, bringing up data on his tablet. "The Veldari ship contains scientific knowledge that could advance our technology by decades. Their star mapping alone could cut years off our exploration plans." "So they're worth protecting for more than just moral reasons," Carter noted. A loud alarm cut through the conversation. "Harvesters are moving in," Peterson called out. "Multiple weapon signatures activating." "Evasive maneuvers," ordered Daniels. "Floors, target their propulsion systems." The space around them lit up as energy weapons fired from all sides. The Pathfinder shook violently. "Shields down to 40%, an officer reported. Lieutenant Commander Grant's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I have an idea. The mining explosives we brought for asteroid sampling, we could modify them to create a targeted electromagnetic pulse." "Do it," Daniels ordered. "How will you deliver them?" "The shuttles," Grant replied. "If we can get close enough to their main engines." Carter stood up. "I'll pilot the shuttle. I have the most combat flight experience." Daniels nodded grimly. "Approved. Take Ensign Miller as your co-pilot." As Carter left the bridge, the harvesters launched another wave of fighters. The Pathfinder's weapons blazed, destroying several, but more kept coming. "They're adapting to our weapon frequencies," Flores warned. In engineering, Grant worked frantically with his team to modify the mining explosives. When Carter arrived, the devices were ready. "These need to be placed within 100 meters of their engine exhausts," Grant explained, loading them onto the shuttle. "The timer is set for 60 seconds after activation." "Got it," Carter said, climbing into the pilot's seat. "Let's go hunting." The shuttle bay doors opened, and the small craft shot out into the battle. On the bridge, Daniels watched its progress on the tactical display. "Provide cover fire for the shuttle," he ordered. "Draw their attention to us." The Pathfinder turned and charged directly at the nearest harvester ship, all weapons firing. It was a dangerous move, but it worked. The harvester fighters swarmed toward the larger human vessel, ignoring the small shuttle that slipped past their formation. "Carter's approaching the target," Peterson reported. On the shuttle, Carter maneuvered between massive engine structures. "Deploying charges now," he reported over the comm. Back on the bridge, Daniels gripped his chair arms tightly. "Get clear, Carter," he ordered. "Get clear now." The shuttle raced away from the harvester ship as Carter counted down the seconds in his head. Behind him, the massive alien vessel loomed like a mountain in space. 20 seconds to detonation, Carter told Ensign Miller. Maximum thrust. Their small craft pushed forward, engines glowing bright blue with effort. On the Pathfinder's bridge, Captain Daniels and the crew watched the tactical display with held breath. "They're still too close," Daniels muttered. Then a flash of light burst from the rear of the harvester ship. The explosion rippled along its hull, shutting down systems as the electromagnetic pulse spread. The massive ship began to drift, its lights flickering and dying. "Direct hit," Peterson called out. "One harvester vessel disabled." Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Daniels remained focused on the shuttle. "Carter, report status," he ordered into the comm. Static crackled, then cleared. "We took some damage from the blast wave." "Sir," Carter's voice replied, returning to the Pathfinder now. As the shuttle limped back toward the bay, the two remaining harvester ships changed position. They moved to protect their disabled companion while launching more fighters. "They're calling for reinforcements," Peterson warned, studying his sensors. "I'm detecting 5 more harvester signatures entering the system." The mood on the bridge darkened instantly. Even with one enemy ship disabled, they were now greatly outnumbered. A loud crash shook the ship as a harvester weapon found its mark. Captain Daniels was thrown from his chair, landing hard on the deck. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. "Captain." Dr. Martinez rushed to his side. "I'm fine," Daniels insisted, though he winced as he stood. "Damage report. Shields at 22%. Flores called out. We've lost weapons on the port side." Lieutenant Commander Grant's voice came over the comm. "Captain, we need to reduce power usage. The main reactor is overheating." Another hit rocked the ship. Sparks flew from a console, injuring a crew member. "Sir, the Velderi ship is reporting their life support is failing completely," Wright announced. "They're asking if we can take their people aboard." Daniels looked around at his damaged ridge, then made his decision. "Begin evacuation of the Velderi to our ship. Rodriguez, bring us alongside their vessel. Carter, coordinate security for our new guests." As the Pathfinder moved closer to the Velderi ship, Carter organized teams to help with the evacuation. Blue-skinned aliens began boarding through airlocks, many carrying small containers of belongings or scientific equipment. Dr. Martinez met Zixel as she came aboard. The Velderi scientist looked exhausted but grateful. "Your people fight with remarkable skill," Zixel said, "but the harvesters will not stop. They never do." "Then we'll keep fighting," Martinez replied simply. On the bridge, Daniel studied the tactical situation. His shoulder throbbed where he had been injured, but he pushed the pain aside. They needed a new strategy. "Peterson, what have you learned about the harvester communication system?" he asked. "They use a networked hierarchy," Peterson explained. "The command ship coordinates all others." "Which one is the command ship?" Peterson pointed to the largest vessel, now positioned behind the others. "That one. It stays protected at all times." Daniels nodded slowly, an idea forming. "What if we could disrupt their command structure?" Zixel entered the bridge with Dr. Martinez. When she heard the captain's question, she stepped forward. "It might be possible," she said. "Our scientists studied their communication patterns. They are vulnerable to certain frequency disruptions. Could your knowledge be combined with our technology to create such a disruption?" Daniels asked. Zixel's large eyes blinked thoughtfully. "Yes. With your power systems and our research, we could create a targeted pulse that would scramble their network." "Then that's our new mission," Daniels said firmly. "Grant, work with the Velderi scientists. We need this weapon operational as soon as possible." As the humans and Velderi began working together, the harvester ships moved into a new attack formation. They clearly sensed the danger their prey presented. "They're surrounding us completely now," Rodriguez reported. Daniels looked at the view screen, where the dark shapes of enemy ships blocked the stars. "Then we'll just have to break through," he said. 2 days passed as the Pathfinder played a deadly game of hit-and-run with the Harvester fleet. Captain Daniels had ordered the ship to make short jumps using the warp drive, appearing just long enough to fire weapons before disappearing again. This tactic confused the Harvesters, who seemed unused to such an elusive enemy. In the main engineering section, Lieutenant Commander Grant worked alongside Veldari scientists. They had converted a storage bay into a shared laboratory, where humans and aliens worked side by side. "The targeting system is almost ready," Grant told Krell, who had become his main Veldari partner. "But we'll only get one shot at this." Krell nodded, all four of his hands busy with different tools. "The energy requirements are enormous. Your ship's power systems will be strained to their limits." "Just like everything else on this mission," Grant replied with a tired smile. On the bridge, Captain Daniels reviewed their situation with his officers. His injured shoulder was bandaged, but pain showed on his face when he moved too quickly. "The modified weapon will be ready in 4 hours," he told them. "But we still need to get close enough to the command ship to use it." "Sir," called Lieutenant Wright from her station, "I'm detecting new warp signatures entering the system. 3 of them." The bridge crew tensed, expecting more Harvester reinforcements. "Identification?" Daniels asked. Wright's expression changed to one of surprise. There are ships, sir. Earth signatures. The U.S. Sentinel, U.S. Valiant, and U.S. Defender." A cheer went up across the bridge. On the view screen, 3 sleek vessels appeared in formation, their designs similar to the Pathfinder, but with visible differences. "They weren't supposed to arrive for another week," Peterson said in amazement. "Open a channel," Daniels ordered, his voice filled with new energy. Admiral Karen Mitchell's face appeared on screen. She was a stern woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Daniels," she greeted him. "Looks like you could use some help." "Your timing is perfect, Admiral," Daniels replied. "Though I'm surprised to see you so soon. When we received your reports about these Harvesters, every engineer on Earth worked around the clock to speed up our warp systems," Mitchell explained. "We've brought some new weapons, too." As they spoke, the Harvester fleet began to react to the new arrivals. Their ships moved into defensive positions, clearly reassessing the threat. "We've developed a plan to target their command vessel," Daniels told the Admiral. "If we coordinate our attack, we can open a path for the Pathfinder to get close enough to use our new weapon." Admiral Mitchell nodded. "The Sentinel will take point. The Valiant and Defender will provide cover fire." For the first time, the Veldari on the Pathfinder's bridge witnessed Earth ships fighting together. The 4 human vessels moved with coordinated precision that seemed to confuse the Harvesters. While the 3 new arrivals engaged the outer ships, the Pathfinder slipped through gaps in their formation. "They're adapting," Peterson warned as Harvester fighters began to focus on the Pathfinder. "Evasive maneuvers," Daniels ordered. "Stay on course for the command ship." In engineering, Grant and Krell made final adjustments to their weapon. The modified main cannon now pulsed with strange energy that combined human and Veldari technology. "Power levels at maximum," Grant reported. "We're ready, Captain." The Pathfinder shook as it took multiple hits. Shields were failing, but they were almost in position. "Target locked," Flores announced. On the bridge view screen, the massive Harvester command ship loomed ahead. Unlike the others, this one had remained untouched in battle, protected by its fleet. Until now. "Fire," Daniels ordered quietly. The Pathfinder's main cannon released a strange pulse of energy. It wasn't a typical beam or explosion, but rather a wave that spread across space, washing over the command ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the lights on the Harvester vessel began to flicker. One by one, systems shut down across its surface. "Direct hit," Peterson called out. "Their command network is collapsing." Across the battlefield, the effect spread. Harvester fighters stopped in mid-attack, drifting aimlessly. The larger ships began to lose coordination, their movements becoming erratic. "It's working," Daniels said, watching in amazement. "Their entire fleet runs on that central command system." 1 week after the battle, Captain Daniels stood on the observation deck of the U.S. Pathfinder. The ship had been repaired enough to function, though scars from the battle remained visible on its hull. Through the large window, he could see the disabled harvester vessels, now being studied by joint human and Veldari teams. "Captain," Dr. Martinez called as she entered. "The Veldari Council is ready for you." Daniels nodded and followed her to the conference room, where Admiral Mitchell was already seated. Around the table sat 5 Veldari, including Zixel and Krell. But what surprised Daniels were the other aliens present, beings he had never seen before. One had green skin and tentacles instead of arms. Another was short, with thick brown fur covering its body. A third appeared almost human, except for its silver skin and completely black eyes. "Captain Daniels," Zixel began, "these are representatives from worlds that have suffered under harvester attacks. When they learned what happened here, they came immediately." The silver-skinned alien stood. "I am Ren of the Lumari. For 300 years, my people have hidden in asteroid belts and gas giants, afraid to build cities or use technology that might attract the harvesters. Now you have done what we thought impossible." Admiral Mitchell leaned forward. "You mean no one has fought back before?" "Some tried," said the furry alien in a deep voice. "All failed. The harvesters always returned stronger. But your attack was different. You targeted their command structure. You thought differently." "Humans often do," Daniels said with a small smile. "We wish to learn from you," said the tentacled being. "To understand your weapons, your tactics, but most importantly, your willingness to help strangers." Dr. Martinez had been quietly studying the visitors. "You all seemed surprised that we answered the distress call." The aliens exchanged looks. Zixel spoke for them. "In this region of space, distress calls often go unanswered. Too dangerous. When we sent ours, we hoped perhaps a passing trade ship might relay it to our homeworld. We never expected anyone to come directly to help. Let alone a species we had never met," added Krell. "That's not how humans operate," Daniels explained simply. "If someone calls for help, we respond." The conference room fell silent as the aliens considered this concept. Finally, Admiral Mitchell spoke. "Earth is prepared to establish formal diplomatic relations with all your worlds. We offer our protection against future harvester attacks." The silver-skinned Wren tilted his head. "You would defend worlds you barely know." "Yes," Mitchell answered without hesitation. "That's what allies do." Later, as the alien representatives prepared to return to their ships with news of the alliance, Daniels found Zixel on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Your people are remarkable," she said without turning. "In just 1 week, you have changed the balance of power in this entire sector." "We only answered a call for help," Daniels replied, standing beside her. "And in doing so, you gave hope to billions of beings across dozens of worlds." Zixel turned to face him. The harvesters ruled through fear. No one dared to stand against them, until humans arrived. As Zixel left, Lieutenant Commander Grant joined Daniels at the window. "The Veldari engineers have shared some amazing technology with us," Grant said excitedly. "Their star charts alone will advance our exploration programs by decades. And in return, we've given them something they needed even more," Daniels replied. "What's that, sir?" "Courage." Daniels smiled as he watched Earth's ships, now patrolling alongside vessels from their new allies. "Sometimes the most important thing you can do is show others that the impossible is possible." As the Pathfinder prepared to escort the Veldari delegation to Earth for formal treaty signing, news spread rapidly across the sector. Species that had lived in fear for generations emerged from hiding, reaching out to the newcomers who had changed everything. On remote worlds and hidden outposts, the story was told again and again, how a peaceful species sent a distress call into the void, never expecting an answer. and how they had accidentally invited the one species in the galaxy that would not only come to help, but would change the rules of the game entirely. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.